Hey, welcome to my channel. It's Holly Allison. That's me. Today I'm just introducing myself and a little bit about what this channel is kind of leaning towards right now. It's obviously going to be mostly about me and the things that I'm going through right now. One of which is weight loss and the program that I've chosen with the help of my doctor and how that's going because it's been about a month. The other things that I generally lifestyle-wise tend towards are, I guess you would call it fiber arts or knitting, crocheting, that sort of thing. Lately I've been obsessed with crocheting little doll toys. Obviously doesn't have the hair on right now. And I don't know that I would call myself truly a minimalist, but I do feel strongly about having a highly reduced inventory. So I guess into minimalism. However, the last few years I've gotten, I don't want to say away from it because I like the core principles. It was just, I was still bringing in way more than was leaving my home. So I don't know what else there is to say about me. That's just kind of what's going on in my life. The main three things going on. If there's a huge interest in splitting those topics off into separate channels, I will certainly consider doing so. But I feel like a lot of people have, more than one thing going on in their lives. And so if you're interested in some of the lifestyle that I'm bringing you, this is the right place to be. So, minimalism, crochet, knitting, and, losing weight and getting healthy. So some backstory, I guess, would be that I began crocheting. We'll start with fiber arts. It's what I know the best. I started crocheting when I was about 5 years old. I learned from my grandmother and honestly, just kept it up and, we just developed skills here and there, and I've made a whole host of mistakes. So, I guess that's the good thing about starting so young is that you just kind of keep rolling with it and you go, oh well, and you don't stress out too much the way we do as adults. So then I started knitting, probably, it's more than 10 years ago. We'll say 15-ish years ago, 13, somewhere around there. It was something I had wanted and had a lot of interest in attempting and trying to do and learn. At that time, I just felt like the clothing patterns, like sweaters, I didn't make this, but like certain types of things I just felt looked better knitted, or I would see knitting patterns that I just thought were amazing, and I just wanted to learn how to do that. So I struggled quite a bit, made so many mistakes. It looked horrendous here and there, and then I would give up. And one January, I was having my appendix out because life, and it was January, so it's snowy here in Northeast Ohio, and a friend brought knitting needles and some yarn to the hospital. Now, I tried in the hospital, which lasted about 5 minutes because my IV was in my hand, and so no. But I had 2 weeks of recovery and this wonderful thing right here, YouTube, to learn from. And it took a lot of trial and error to find the style that worked well for me, especially having come from such a strong crochet background and into knitting that, I just kind of dabbled around and kept playing around until I found the right channel and something called a continental style of knitting. And I went, okay. And then I did that for a while and I set it down. And when I went to pick it back up, I actually, I didn't feel like bringing up the videos again. So I was kind of trying to remember on my own, like the motion and everything. And so I've sort of developed my own continental-ish style. So I have had people comment like they've never seen anyone knit like how I knit. So maybe I'll share that at some point, but that's what we're here for. We've got plenty of content. Weight loss also, I would yeah. I don't want to say it's a more recent thing, but you know, I hear a lot where a lot of weight loss journeys start with, oh, I've been heavy my entire life, and so finally I just, figured out what worked best for me. And I actually didn't have that same journey, and I think everybody's struggle is their own, and it's them. It's like, obviously, I'm not taking away or making like mine more difficult, or anyone else is less difficult. It's just a different journey than what I feel like I hear a lot, and that is, I grew up, I was like stick thin, and also very tall. I'm 5'11", and was probably 5'11" by the time I was in 8th grade. So, anyway, so I was stick thin, a very late bloomer. I didn't get really much, other shape, until late into high school. And, so yeah, I was always very, very thin, never had to worry about anything, never worried about what I ate or anything like that. And eventually I, around the time I was 35, had developed some thyroid disorder. The assumption was that it was Hashimoto's, but when you're 25, sometimes you just don't have the funds to go through all the endocrine testing, and truthfully, I don't know that I feel necessary to do now either. And one of the things of that was I had put on a ton of weight. So naturally, by being put on proper medication, most of that came off and everything was perfectly fine. Life keeps going, and then, I don't know, like, I'm one of those people that sometimes I minimize what's in my mind. So like, I might put on 5 pounds and I go, it's only 5 pounds, whatever. And then on, maybe another 5 pounds comes on. Oh, so I think that's actually a very important part of the story. Backing up was, how I got to that point was I had, experienced a bit of, it was a completely traumatic accident that put me out of work for almost 2 years. So I had, at that time, before the accident, had been doing very physical, manual labor types of jobs, working in factories, a factory. I guess that was really my only job at that point, was because I had been there for like something like 8-ish years. And so I was very physically fit just by virtue of, essentially, being paid to work out for 8 hours a night. So yeah, it often was a lot heavier than I actually appeared, because I had quite a bit of muscle and tone and everything like that. So not only was I putting on 5 pounds here, 5 pounds there, I was losing a lot of my tone. And so then it just kept creeping up. And I swore I wasn't going to be that person that, goes out on leave and, went back to work way overweight, because I'd seen that happen so many times. But eventually you fall into terrible habits and patterns and mindsets, honestly. So I've been kind of back and forth as far as getting some of the weight off, putting it back on. I've tried different things. I guess I'm trying to think of some of the stuff I've done over the years. I've done like some of the Beachbody programs. I've done some Weight Watchers. I've done, I think P90X. Is that a Beachbody? That might be a Beachbody. I think I did P90X for a little bit at one point. I tried my hand at bodybuilding and getting ready for competitions, and that's a totally different style of unhealthy. Anybody who's ever done it will, most people recognize it's completely unhealthy. Kind of I knew that, but vanity got into my head. And sometime I would say the biggest thing in the past that has been a downfall is I never felt like I was losing the weight for myself. I was doing it for some external reason or validation, or, some stupid guy, because that's what we do. So, inevitably when things go south, or you feel like you don't have that same kind of external motivation, then the weight comes back on. And I guess, astonishing to me is I never felt like I was an emotional eater until 2020 hit. And for a while, we really thought our jobs were going to be safe. And for the industry that I was in, there was no reason in our minds that we would ever lose our jobs. And lo and behold, they used the pandemic as a reason to shut down our branch. And that sent me, obviously everyone was shocked. And that sent me into, I was trying to stay on track, and I kind of was, and I found another job that on paper sounded very similar, and in practice was very soul-sucking. It wasn't what I thought it would be, and it got to the point where, like, I was eating my feelings like crazy, where I would go get, like, 2 for $5 or $6 sandwiches at Burger King, thinking, oh, I'll eat one tomorrow plus some fries. So I'll eat a sandwich and fries today, and I'll have, another sandwich tomorrow. That never happened. And eventually, just through some introspection and some help with counseling, I learned that I was just making myself so uncomfortable at lunchtime because I was just so miserable at work all day that the discomfort of being overly full was a distraction, I guess, in my mind or emotionally. So that got way out of hand, and I put on way, way more weight than I would have ever imagined, honestly. When I started the bodybuilding journey, I was the highest weight I had ever been. And so recently I finally, and I knew I'd put on the weight, and it was just getting hard to find that want to do it for myself. When I went for my physical back in September, I stepped on the scale thinking, it's not gonna be awesome, but like, all right. And it was probably 25 pounds higher than what I thought. So I hit 278 and some change. And at 5'11", that's a lot. That's over 100 pounds overweight. So that was really, really something that, I don't know. I saw that number, and it was very sombering. It was very sobering in that, like, it was really my sign that I needed to do something, or, it would just keep getting out of hand. And I've seen my stepdad and his sister eat themselves to death, essentially, and I don't want to get to that point. So I talked to my doctor, and we talked through some things. She was very like, no, I don't prescribe the trendy drugs that are out there right now. So, and I was fine with that. Like, I wanted to have that open conversation of, if they are the right thing, sure, but I just didn't know enough about them. And she said they are just too risky. So she suggested going back to Weight Watchers, because that's what most patients that she's experienced have been successful with. And I know the program has changed quite a bit over the years. And since I have a different email address now, I was able to get the 2-week free trial. And then I was kind of, I don't want to say half-assing it, but kind of like, I won't say I didn't take it seriously, but kind of I didn't. So like if I forgot to track something, I'm like, oh, well, whatever. But it still brought a lot of like mindfulness and going like, oh, well, we're going to go to Popeyes for lunch. And then, okay, well, what am I going to get? Ooh, okay, that's a good, barometer to see the point value of, the chicken with all the breading and stuff that I really wanted, versus the blackened chicken sandwich, which I feel is equally as delicious. You just don't get the crispy, crunchy bits on the chicken. And I went, you know what? I like the blackened chicken sandwich. I'm going to get that. And that was my lunch. And so when I hit that 2-week part, I was like, I don't know. And there just happened to be a special where, because I ended up canceling it because it was going to throw me into like a 6-month prepaid thing, and it was just more than I wanted to spend. So I canceled it thinking, well, at least I've got a good start and a good handle on what 0-point foods are. And so, of course, when you go to log back in, they're like, hey, here's this great deal. And I went, that is a great deal. So I took it. And so that's where I'm at with weight loss at this point. And as far as minimalism, that's just something that I learned from having moved from an apartment into a 4-bedroom house all by myself. No other dwellers in here. When I unloaded everything from the apartment, I was absolutely disgusted at how I almost filled an entire 4-bedroom house with just stuff. And a lot of stuff that I don't know that I even cared about that much. And I was lamenting to this over the phone with a friend. And of course, we know our phones listen to us. And so YouTube started suggesting, because, you know, that's my favorite platform. I do the premiums. I don't watch ads. If there's any streaming service I pay for, it's YouTube. So we know our phones listen to us, and Google and YouTube, you know, they talk to each other. And so I started seeing the Minimal Mom, and she was more like, she calls it practical minimalism, which I think, or, you know, sometimes she calls it a highly simplified lifestyle or reduced inventory or like very low inventory lifestyle. And that really spoke to me. So as I unpacked the boxes, a lot of it just went right out the door. So that was huge. I loved it. And it kind of had that feeling of like, when I come home at the end of the day, it really felt like a mini vacation, like house. Like I had everything I needed, nothing that I didn't. I probably still had more than I needed, if I'm being honest. And then, you know, so I do this great, awesome thing, and I'm like, awesome. And so, you know, we're humans. We bring more stuff in, and I wasn't so good on keeping on the, like, making stuff go away or reevaluating when things no longer served where I'm at in my season of life. So I'm getting back on that. Unfortunately, I don't have like a ton of before and afters for some of the areas that I have gone through recently, but don't worry, there's plenty of junk piles that we can declutter together if you are looking for some body doubling. Same thing, if you're looking for some body doubling with knit and crochet things. I know we're going into the holiday season, and you might be, you know, wanting some additional company as you try to frantically finish gifts. So something to think about. Anyway, I rambled on way more than I thought I would, but I thank you so much for sticking around, and we will have plenty more to chat about with yarn pursuits, my weight loss journey, fitness, just getting healthier again, and also just living a more simplified lifestyle and, you know, things like that. So thanks for staying tuned. Feel free to comment, like, subscribe, all of those things. And I really look forward to visiting with you in the next one. Bye.